Okay, welcome everybody to this episode of Latest Insights. My name is Elisabeth Finocchiaro, and I'm a breathworker and coach working with creative visionaries, creative entrepreneurs, creative leaders to bring more ease into your lives, bring more ease into getting your work out into the world, bring more ease into your relationship to yourself, relationships to your people. So this is a series that we are uploading on Spotify. You can also join the live calls in the future once a month, every third Tuesday at 12 o'clock Central European time. And where I just speak about, the things that are going on behind the scenes. A little bit about what the breakthroughs that are happening in my own life, in my client's life, some new concepts that are coming on, things that I'm working on. Sometimes these calls can get quite, raw in a way of like I'm working on certain things that I haven't really figured out yet, and this is the first place I talk about it publicly, and I've just loved these conversations so much. So I hope you're enjoying. If you're watching or you're listening to the replay, I hope you're also just, soaking it in and getting exactly what you need from it, what you want from it. And yeah, with any questions or anything that you're wondering about working with me or my programs or anything like this, you can always send me a message on social media. So let's start by relaxing the body a little bit more and just noticing, where is your breath right now? No judgment. Just noticing if it feels more difficult or if it feels super easy. And just relaxing any tension that you consciously can right now. I felt some tension in my shoulders, so it was just to kind of bring my awareness there, maybe do a little stretch or movement. Then it kind of went into my neck, so I just notice relaxing the mind, relaxing my body, relaxing my belly. I love this relationship with the breath where you do the breath and then you kind of turn over to being the breath. And it's like a click moment. And the more you are curious about it, I feel like the faster it goes. So going from I'm the body and the stress and the tension that I was just feeling into, okay, I'm going to breathe, and then finally resting in a deeper, I am the breath, I am here, I am. Then the mind comes in again, or something, a sensation in the body comes in again. It's fine. Seeing if I can relax it a little bit deeper. Getting back to the simplicity of the breath, the silent breath. I think there's my 3 favorite breath things that you could do, I feel, is 1, coherent breathing. So that's bringing a longer exhale, slowing down the breath, but also keeping it rhythmic enough so it's around 4 seconds in, 6 seconds out. So you have a 10-second cycle. The other one is the sigh of relief. So the bigger inhale and the just letting go of the exhale. So you just let it go. That one is natural. It's a gift that was given to us. It wasn't like a technique that somebody created. And the third one is something I call the unconditioned breath. And this is up to the individual. Exactly, it can look so different because it's unconditioned. But usually the theme is that it's very open and you don't know where it's going to go. So you don't know where the inhale is going to go. You don't know how the exhale is going to look. It's just like complete openness to the breath. And usually is a let go on the exhale. So I really dance in between those three. Coherent breathing, slowing down my exhale, really getting into a beautiful rhythm to connect my mind to my heart, to bring coherence and this beautiful healing frequency to my body. The sigh of relief to charge up and let go, and my unconditioned breath to really enter a state of non-interference. I don't interfere with my breath. It could also be called the non-interference breath. A breath that you don't interfere. So important. I remember my teacher told me many years ago when I was training to be a breath worker. Some of you already heard this before, but he said, the breath is so powerful, we need to learn the techniques and we need to get to know it and do the things and train it. And the breath is so powerful, we actually shouldn't touch it. We should learn from it and don't mess it up. And what do you do with that information? Because it's like contrary, like one saying do something to it, the other one saying don't do something to it. And I guess that's also the balance in life, is to let yourself be, but then also, create and do things and become. The being and the becoming energy. So you can figure out where you are in that. Maybe you're in a place in your life where you could benefit from just not touching things. Let things smoothen out, let things play its course. And there might be other moments where, your touch would be supportive. And it's just like that being a breath worker in a session. The question's always like, is my touch going to help or is it going to not help? Because as a breath worker, we could go over to someone who's breathing and it doesn't help their process. It would actually be better if we didn't interfere. And that's why, in my training, we talk about really tuning in with yourself before you go over to someone. Are you going over because you want to fix something? You have an agenda? Because there's something also when you merge the two, there's a way to be present and do in a non-interfering way as well. So we can go to a breather and we can be there and still hold a very non-interfering energy. There's no agenda. There's no, I need this from this experience. So maybe that's it. Maybe that's the meeting place, the mixture in life. Can we let be and also be there in a non-interfering way? And I think this looks like relaxing the stories. The idea of, but it has to look like this, or it has to give me this, or it needs to be like this, instead of just being there, doing the thing in a non-interfering way. I love this idea of simplifying. Show up, simplify, create. Simplify, create, serve. Without all this agenda, without all this back stuff. So as always in a lot of my classes, you can listen to this as much as you want or as you would like. If you want to close your eyes and lay down and just listen to this call, do that. For those of you who are live, if you want to interact, that's also great. And yeah, I just hope that you're taking care of yourself and tuning in exactly the way that you want to be tuning in. Great. So I'll turn down the music. So there's a couple things I want to share with you all today that I hope serves you and can take you forward. Right now, what is really big in my world is an experience that I created called Muse, which is a experience to really help creatives get their work out in the world with more ease. So that's very much the topic. And it's been very inspiring to see the shares and the processes that have been coming up. And it is an experience where there's breath sessions, masterclasses, and audios to tune into. And we have been going through many different topics, and there's been a theme definitely in my life, and that's why I created Muse May, because I knew I wanted to have a month. May was just such a perfect time in this, part of the world where the spring is coming, there's energy from the sun finally, and feeling like it's time to blossom. And I really felt that within myself. I said, this is time to freaking blossom. It's time to get clarity. It's time to light the things on fire, to create warmth, to create energy. Like, I just wanted to turn it up, and I wanted to bring people with me. So, and that's really what has been happening, and it's so fun to feel it. So one of the first things that I want to talk about, and I mentioned it inside Muse May, is the concept of Riverstones. And this is something that I think is going to stick with me forever. I'm working with a coach right now, and I just feel like I'm getting such incredible support. And I forget the context that she said it in, but it was like, remember, this is like a riverstone. And I was like, Riverstone? What do you mean, Riverstone? Tell me more about this Riverstone. And that in itself, that teaching in itself, I think was worth the whole entire, thing. Because for me, it was just, I'm always going to think of this now. I'm always going to have this in my heart. I'm always going to have this in my life now, this idea of being a riverstone. And understanding that, when you put a rock in a river, it takes a long time with consistent water to flatten it out. And I've known this for many years, and I'm sure you guys know it in all your different ways, that a lot of our dreams and getting our work out into the world and working on ourselves too, with the belief and the bridges and all the stuff, it takes being ready over and over and over and over again to smoothen things out. And this is what I'm really realizing, and we're bringing it up in Muse May and bringing it up in some different sessions that I'm leading this month, that we really want to smoothen out things. We don't necessarily need to take things away. We need to smoothen them out. And when things are smooth, what are the words we think of when things are smooth? We think easy, soft, gentle, maybe even sensual. Like when you touch something smooth, it's kind of like, I guess something spiky could be sensual as well, but it depends on what you're into. But the smoothness for me is like, that feels really nice. It feels gentle, it feels silky, it feels, yeah, whatever other words you can possibly think of when you think of smooth. And in one way, it's like you can smoothen out almost anything. And what we're talking about in the work that I'm doing with my clients, it has a lot to do with smoothing out resistance, smoothing out sabotage, smoothing out the stories, smoothing out different processes that we have, smoothing out the inner voice, like what we're saying to ourselves, smoothing out, how we treat ourselves, smoothing out our way of showing up, smoothing out like all the things. And this has just been such a great reframe to see that, it takes showing up, it takes the readiness over and over and over again, the willingness over and over and over again to create this soft, smooth riverstone. So something that's also been coming up is, as always, all of my years, I think since day one, the conversation of resistance and sabotage has been in my work since day one. Because, of course, I went through so much resistance and sabotage. I still do. And it was my arch nemesis. Is that what you say? Your arch nemesis? It was my Achilles, whatever. It was my kryptonite, whatever you want to call it. I was so afraid of my resistance and my sabotage because it really would hurt. I would hurt myself in psychological punishing ways. You know, the saboteur can be very tricky and can be very harmful. And so this has been a pattern from the beginning, and same with my clients. Like, just things that we all have to go through. So if you think that you're gonna not go through it, or that and at the same time, I think everyone has different stories. I have met somebody who told me that she doesn't have it. She doesn't really go through it the same way that I was describing it. And that was enlightening for me. But, you know, maybe if I checked in with her again, she would have a different answer. I don't know. We'll see. But of course, we are all coming with our unique stories and experiences. So I want to reframe the word resistance a bit, and I want to reframe the word sabotage a bit for you guys, because these words are so used, and maybe they don't even have like the best charge to them. So I want you to start to see your resistance as the contrast and the contract, like the contract, like the contraction, and the contrast, like the other side of what you potentially want. And sabotage, I want you to see that as the story. There's a story there. There's a path there. Maybe if you can reframe this, I'm not sure if this is going to support you. You have to try it on. You have to see if it works, or you have to understand this. You have to feel it in the body. But if you change the word resistance to contrast or contract, then you realize that, well, this is actually what is needed. I don't know if you guys saw, I know that Gabrielle shared it on Instagram, this video that was going viral about a flower that was opening and then contracting a bit and then opening more and contracting a bit. And it's funny because I was in a space the weekend, like a weekend before, I just started noticing it all over social media. And we were talking about that, you know, how flowers, they open, they go back a bit. And then suddenly the next week I see this video going viral, and everyone's posting it, at least in my field. And it's just such a beautiful example. And I'm so happy that it went viral, because that means that people are understanding that the beautiful process of the open and the contract. It, if a video like that is going viral, then I was so happy. I was just like, wow, we're getting it. We're getting it. And I think we're getting it on a body level now. We're ready for this. Like, we are ready, and we got this. We're ready to understand that we're not going to take away the contraction. We're going to actually like support the contraction, protect the contraction, relax into the contraction, get ready for the blossom, get ready for the contraction, get ready for the blossom. So the resistance is actually such an important part of the process. But, you know, there's so many people who they think of resistance and they just think fear, stop, no, can't do this. There's a story that one of my peers talked about, and she said she was learning the language French, and felt like she was really getting somewhere with the language. She felt like she was really like excelling, and then at one point she felt like she forgot everything, so it was so frustrating. She felt like she couldn't articulate herself. She was like, what is happening? Like, I just don't feel like what's going on. And I forget if it was like a week later or a couple days later, then she excelled. It just went like 10 times. And I've experienced this with certain things in my life as well, where I feel like there's a blossom, or there's an expansion period of like really showing up, or things are moving, things are changing, and then there can be like a little contraction period where it doesn't feel like things are happening, it doesn't feel like things are moving, only to be led by another expansion moment. And if you can smoothen out this process, you're going to be this, like, it's like this pulsation. You're going to be this living, breathing flower. I mean, that sounds so cheesy, but you know what I mean? Like it's going to actually happen for you, that the contraction is going to be this beautiful resting space, and then the opening, you're going to be ready for it. If you are shaming and punishing yourself for this process of, like, oh no, nothing's happening, and then you open up and like, oh, okay, well, I'm not worthy of this, and then go back, oh, it hurts, and then go, that's not smooth. That's very very rigid. It's very spiky. I guess people call it sticky as well, not smooth. So we really want to smoothen out these processes for ourselves so that things get easier. Like we just feel there's more ease in the way that we do things, in the way that we show up, and most importantly, in the way that we treat ourselves and others. So in contraction, it can also be very common to be hard on yourself, to be punishing towards yourself. And this is so sad when this happens. And I know it just happens. I think there was an experience where we had a group. I think it was a retreat, a certification. It was a certification retreat. I don't remember which year. I think it was the first year. Okay, now it's all coming back. It was the first year certification retreat. And we were sharing, everyone was sharing, I forget exactly how it was, but they were sharing beliefs they had about themselves. Yes, that was it. We were doing this exercise with vision and beliefs. And the group was sharing beliefs that they thought about themselves. Like, I can't do this. I'm too young. I'm too old. Don't do this. And I don't, whatever the stories were. And somebody in the group actually had an experience that it was really sad to hear. It was really sad to hear all of the things that were said about everyone, that everyone was saying about themselves. And it's happening, and I agree, it is so sad when you hear somebody say these things. And at the same time, when the door is shut and you're going through a contraction, you might be saying these things to yourself. And this is one of the most important processes to smoothen out. So some people think that, oh, but I just have to get better at social media, or I have to get better at like doing this. I have to get better at doing that. I have to be better at technology. I have to get better at taking pictures or videos, or I have to get better at this and this and this. I would start with smoothing out how you deal with the contractions and the expansions in your life, these little moments, because once those are smoothened out, your joy comes back, your creativity comes back, your confidence comes back. And then when you have confidence, joy, and creativity as a more of a baseline in your life, then it's very easy to, figure things out, right? It's very easy to build a website. I know some people are just like, oh, it's not that easy. It's quite easy, actually. There's so many website platforms. You just click and drop, or you can pay someone to do it. Like, it's quite easy. But you get in your head because of the contraction. It has nothing to do with the website. It has to do with I can't do this. I'm scared. If you relax into that, if you can smoothen that out, suddenly you're just like, oh, perfect. There's a contrast here. There's a part of me that feels like this is scary. Okay, I'm going to not judge that. I'm going to not make it wrong. And I'm going to take the time that I need to feel ready for this. So the contraction is a very interesting moment. The contrast is an interesting moment, because if it got you to a point where you're feeling it in your body and it's heavy, the answer is not to try to blossom right away. Like, you can't force the blossom, right? The flower is not like, I hate the contrast, let's blossom. It's just like a natural pulse that happens. So if you're feeling a contraction and you're feeling like, and all you want to do is like expand. I just want to expand. I want to expand. I want to do the things. I want to do that. I want to get bigger, more, whatever. But you're still in the contraction phase. It's super important that you honor that. And it can be honored in so many different ways. So sometimes it really is the question of rest. Sometimes you really need to rest your mind, rest your body, and just wake up the next day or take a nap and, wake up feeling refreshed and trust your process. I know that sounds very cheesy. Again, I don't like saying that, but it's a whole thing. There's a masterclass on trust your process as well. We can link that in the bio notes because I really debunk that saying, because I have a whole story with that saying of being so annoyed about it and then finally realizing what it actually means. And there's so much depth in those three words: trust the process. Like, the trust is something so deep, you guys. And that can be, I think, trust for me is like my life work. To embody trust is just so fascinating. And I think so such a deep work. And then the process is basically like the series of events that unfold. And that's, how do you handle it? How do you go through it? How do you treat yourself? How do you navigate it? It holds so many things. So if you can truly trust the process, then I really think that you do embody more joy, creativity, and ease, and whatever that kind of energy is for you. So there's other moments in the contraction where you're actually holding on to the contraction too long. So this is another part that I want to bring up, guys. So one is like the contraction needs to be longer and you're trying to force yourself into a blossom when the contraction actually needs to just be. And you have to trust that and realize that you kind of, resting or not working more, just as an example, like not working more, is you're going to be okay, right? The other part of this is like when you're holding onto the contraction for too long because you feel safer in the contraction than you do in the blossom, in the expansion. And this is where you have to check in with yourself. And this is a relationship and some sort of self-inquiry that can be built over time to tune in and be like, okay, I'm feeling the contraction, been here for a little bit. What do I want? And like what's kind of happening right now? So you just try to have a little check-in with your body. If there is a opening, you can lean into that. And how do we find the opening? Like, what do you mean? Like, if there is an opening? And this is usually if there is desire and it feels like it's coming from, yeah, I'm like, how do I describe it? Let me give you an example. Yeah, it's hard to describe this energy because it shows up for all of us so differently. So, yeah, so let me give you an example. Yesterday I was going to write some posts and kind of just like write some different things and organize, and I was seeing like, hey, what programs am I launching and what's kind of going on, and I was organizing my business a little bit and just seeing like, what type of post do I want to make? What do I want to talk about? What do I feel like people need to hear? And I sat down to write and it's like nothing came out. I had like total writer's block. I was like, nothing. I think I wrote one sentence, you guys, and it was so bad. Um, so bad. I just read it now. It's so bad. I'm not even going to say it on this because it's so bad. So, yeah, yeah. And I'm sitting there like, I need to write posts though. Like, it's kind of important. Like, it's very important for my business that I am showing up and showing parts of myself, and I'm also sharing my thoughts and showing that this could be that someone would want to work with me because I have these thoughts and I have these ideas and these things are happening, but nothing was coming out. So I was going into a bit of a contraction because I felt like kind of blocked. I was just like, nothing's coming. And I went to my partner. We were going to have dinner, and I was telling him, I'm like, I sat down to write some posts, and I kind of want to write it with this new energy that I've been kind of cultivating in the back end, and nothing's coming out. And he was like, oh, well, isn't that a great contrast for you? I don't think he used the word contrast, but he was like, that's interesting. Like, that's really showing you kind of some things because I want to write in a different way, not necessarily changing. I'm not going to change everything that I've been doing, but there's a different angle that I'm focusing on now that I didn't focus on before necessarily. And it's not coming natural to me right now. It will. Again, Riverstone. So right now it's not feeling so natural to write in this way that I want to write. And there's things shifting within me. And the contraction came, where I was just like, I have no idea what to write. Like, no clue. Like, if I was to post something right now, like, there would be nothing coming out. Like I said, this one sentence, but no. So I had to check in with myself. I said, do I sit? And it was getting a bit late. And I was like, do I keep sitting on the computer and just try to force something out of me? Or do I just kind of ease into my night routine and start to go to bed and just rest and just trust that, it's going to come out when it's going to come out? And what energy am I approaching this with? So in this example, my contraction needed to happen. I think the valuable lesson for me there, the valuable like experience for me there was realizing that there is a new way that wants to come out of me. So there is a new way of writing that is requiring quite a lot of consciousness, actually. Like it is going to require more of me, especially in the beginning, right? Because it's not just like me posting like like grateful for today, it's not, that's not the post that I'm trying to write. I'm really trying to evoke feeling and artistry, and bring my thoughts into words, and my concepts and my teachings. Like it's not so easy. It doesn't always come natural to me. It comes very natural to me to speak and things like this, but sometimes writing is, yeah, at least what I'm saying now is like it's in this new way. So the contraction for me has just been so valuable yesterday, especially when my partner also like reminded me in another way of being like, perfect, this is really showing me that this is a new edge for me, this is a new thing for me. And it's not, I'm not going into just blossom 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 in this process. There is a contraction. So I didn't sit in front of the computer for 2 more hours and try to pry out content on the Google Doc. I went to rest and I went to have a good night's sleep. And then, yeah, today I had a, great morning, breath session, client. Now I'm here. The sun is shining. I'm just in my vibe, and I can start to see, I can start to feel the idea of writing is getting easier, right? It's I can feel like there's a blossom. So there's this, what I'm trying to say is that yesterday there was a contraction that I could have tried to pry out, right? Even the fact that I'm using the word pry shows that it was probably not a good idea to stay there. But there has been other times where I've sat down to work or do something and it didn't feel natural, but there was a thing inside of me that was like, keep working on this, keep working on this. Or, when I'm making a branding for a program or something, and I'm doing the pictures and I'm doing the stuff and it's not really working, it's not really hitting, but there's something in me that's like, keep going, keep going. We're so close, we're so close. And it's like, I can be there for 2 hours. And same, I've done that with content and landing pages and writings as well, where I'm just like writing for an hour, just like getting it. But it didn't feel like that the whole time. Like I was like, oh, this isn't it. But then I had this energy in me to keep going. And I think that's the difference here. It's like I wasn't forcing the blossom. I was still like a bit in a contraction, but it was like kind of like, ah. And it's the same. And that's what I mean with resistance as well. And I know I'm using my work a lot as examples because it's the easiest way for me to relate to these concepts, because this is where I learned so much of the concepts is through my art and through my work. And it's like the perfect example for many people who are putting their work out into the world is there will always be this contrast. There will always be this contraction, especially when you're not used to it. For example, like going live on Instagram or Facebook or something where you're just like, you said you're going to do it, you put it in your calendar, and it's like, and then the moment comes like, and then you have to feel in to be like, okay, is this really not aligned for me? Like, is this really like, and you might need to take a moment to breathe a little bit and be like, okay, I got this. You maybe prepared a bit, right? So you take care of the contract. You don't just contract and then just like, we want to take care of ourselves. It's good to be prepared. It's good to take care of yourself. It's good to set a nice space. Like we definitely want to enhance the experience of the contraction and the expansion. But then you do the live, And then suddenly you realize there's like a huge expansion on the other side and you feel amazing and all of these things. So it's a really interesting dynamic. I hope you guys feeling maybe you can see yourself in some of these examples that I'm sharing, and that you can start to also smoothen out your process between the contraction and the expansions in your life, the resistance and the sabotage. Or that's more the resistance. Let me go back to my notes here because I just took up that sentence that I wrote in my notes. Okay. So, the last episode, yeah, I can mention sabotage in the end about the story and the path. The last episode, I talked about being ready and kind of like, why don't we make, if we get an intuitive hit, why don't we always make the action? So if you feel like you really want something, like if you know a desire, why don't you go for it? You know, and I think it's goes down to just being ready. If you're not ready in your body, if you don't feel ready in your mind, if you don't feel ready in your life, you won't go for it. But you can still receive the intuitive guidance or the intuitive hit. And that's why many people get many different intuitive hits before they can actually do it, right? Like, have you guys seen this post that's kind of going around that was like, you ask the universe for a sign, and then the response is like, I'll wait for a signier sign. Have you guys seen that? Yeah. I'm just going to wait for a signier sign. I would like a more vibey sign, please. Could it be on brand, please? An on brand sign. Oh my gosh. So it's something like this, you know. Sometimes we need signier signs that are totally like in our face, but the signs have been there the whole time. And that's something that takes, you know, clarity and sensitivity to see. And then it takes courage to be able to say yes to. So I was mentioning that my signier sign, my sign was that I wanted to work in nature. I want to work in nature. I love how I say wanted because now it's past tense. Do you guys see that? That's so good. Yeah, this is amazing. So in the past, it was like I really wanted to work in nature. And it took me so many years. So I still worked in cities. I was traveling to Bergen. I was traveling to Oslo, Norway, and going to cities to teach. And it took me now this spring. I had book sessions in Oslo all spring and early summer. And I don't really remember what happened in my body. It's like, I guess it was accumulating over so many years that it wasn't just one moment that made me ready for this. But I emailed the people last month before the last latest insight call. So you can watch the other episode or listen to the other episode if you didn't get this story completely. And I canceled all my sessions in Oslo. There was just something in my body that was like, no more, no more cities. And 2 weeks after, or I don't remember the exact dates, I get a message from a woman that has apparently been following me for years. I don't know who she was, but her energy was amazing. First, we just hit it off. Like, I just felt this grace. I felt this softness. I felt this professionality, this commitment, this devotion, and ease. I just felt so eased with her right away. And she said, I would love for you to come to Lofoten and have a retreat. And I was like, well, you don't say. Well, you know, that's totally aligned with what I'm going for right now. And Lofoten as well is in the north of Norway, very, very beautiful place. And I have a deep connection there. I've been traveling there for 6 years or so. My brother lives up there. He's been living up there for 5 years, 4 years. And I have a lot of clients up there, actually. I've done breathwork up there. There's just an energetic place for me up there that I feel very at home with. And it's very magical with the mountains and the ocean. It's a very magical place. I would say it's probably, I don't know if it's one of the seven wonders of the world, but it really should be. It's quite up there with this special midnight sun, whales, beach. It's just incredible. And she has this amazing place, and she's invited me up to have a retreat, and it's happening. So we haven't launched it yet, but I'm going to be holding a retreat up there in September. I think 8th to the 10th it is that weekend. And so I just wanted to share that with you guys because I know how it can feel to not be ready, and you can't fake readiness. You can't. You can try. I've tried a lot to fake readiness. I love the analogy of like you can put a fancy door on a store, but if you walk in and the store is not fancy, like it doesn't work. To put another thing on an outside, but the inside is not it. It's not the same. You can try to be ready. And that's why I really don't like the quote, fake it until you make it. I don't like that quote at all. I think it's a very old paradigm type of stuff because we really are changing it to like believe it until you make it. You know, it's not like fake it until you make it. Like you just got to keep believing it until you make it, or keep feeling it until you make it. Keep showing up for it until you make it. Not fake it until you make it. I mean, there's nuances here, of course. I get that. Like, you know, we can be playful, it can be funny, like whatever. But every time I hear it, there's like a little part of me in my body that's like, no, it's not. That I don't align to that so much at all, actually. I'm more in this phase of like, I'm going to show up for it until I make it. I'm going to lean into it until I make it. I'm going to soften it until I make it. I'm going to listen. I'm going to do a lot of other things than fake it. Definitely not going to fake it. So you can't force readiness. You can't force your blooming. You can't force the contraction. And when we do, there's like a mismatch. Like I said, if you're in contraction for too long, it's like a forced contraction and it's not good for you. This can manifest in depression, lack of movement, feeling uninspired, feeling really down on yourself, hard on yourself, punishing yourself. That's like forced contraction. And then forced blossom is just like, I'm this, I'm that, I'm everything, I'm on the da 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 da, like I'm doing all these things that I'm not always doing, and I'm showing up in a way that's not authentic, and I have all the energy in the world, but in the back end, I'm burnt out, right? Or thinking that you're blossoming, 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 and realizing like I'll never burn out, and then you burn out. Not honoring the contraction phase. That's just like happens multiple times a day. So yeah, you can't fake this readiness. And the only way that you can embody it and maybe make it, you need to just make it smoother. When you make things smoother, things go faster. It's just like going down a slide. If the slide is smooth and oiled and wet, it goes faster than if a slide is like bumpy and dry and full of stuff, then you don't go down as fast. When you smoothen it out, you go faster. And when you feel it, then it suddenly happens. And I know that's super annoying to hear. And I think it's annoying to hear sometimes too. It always reminds me of the energetics, right? When you're in your head trying to figure something out, try to hear yourself and say, okay, is this coming from like an exciting blossom that it's like, oh, I want to figure this out. Like, this is so fun. I'm learning. Oh my God. Like I was saying, like sometimes I can sit with the copy, with the words and be like, I love this process of like trying to figure it out. But if you're trying to figure it out from like, oh, but I have to do this, I have to be ready, I have to have this happen now, it rarely works. And if it does work, it's usually not sustainable because it's like a forced blossom. If you force something to happen, usually there's like a misconnect, if you guys get me. So it was cool to feel, like I told you, I don't really remember the moment that I said no more working in cities, but I was just ready. It just happened. I didn't expect it. I was excited about going to Oslo once a month and having a workshop. I was looking forward to it and I was like, this is great. Although I was feeling it in my body a little bit, but part of me was like, oh, this is great. And yeah, it just hit and it just happened. And then now getting an invitation for a retreat and it's just like perfect. And now understanding other, like just doors open. And I know it can be annoying to hear these things, but it's like the reminder that we all always need. And it's going back to the body. It's going back to the experience that you're having in this moment and just seeing like, what are you ready for now? And just commit yourself to that, relax into that, and try not to be like so far ahead of yourself. Try not to rush your processes. Like, you're so beautiful and you're so talented and you're so amazing in who you are right now. If you relax into that and trust yourself more and be kinder to yourself during the contraction parts, I promise things are going to open up, and it can happen in a snap. It can happen in a day. It's the Riverstone, the constant smoothness, the constant water that's running through it. It takes a lot of water to smoothen out a stone. I love this, the magnetic emotions. Yeah, exactly. Great. So let me know if there's any questions coming up or anything to go a little bit deeper into. We'll just take a little moment to let things land a little bit before we wrap up the call. I love the conversation that came up today. It's something that we can talk forever about, and then at the same time, it's good to just let it sink into you, because you have to get it. It's nothing you have to logically understand. It's something you have to physically feel. And there's layers of it. There's so many layers. So just give a little moment of silence, and if there's any questions that want to come up. Great. So I realized I didn't talk about the sabotage, but I think I'm just going to let it be, because I just love the conversation that came up with the contraction and the expansion. I've been really hard on myself. Leaning into the Riverstone has been such a relief for me. Yes, I'm so happy to hear that. I promise you, I am a recovering person who has been so hard on myself. And the Riverstone also brought me so much relief. It was like something that I could tangibilize, visualize, I think analogies are so important in teaching, to have different analogies of I'm trying to think of we even use the flowers. So there's two analogies in this call today, right? The flower and the Riverstone. And this helps so much when it comes to teaching. There's a fly trying to get in the microphone. So I'm really happy to hear this. It's life-changing for you, for the people around you, and the world, actually, when we are softening the hardness, right? So changing being hard on ourselves to being soft with ourselves, or, you can change whatever soft means for you. Soft doesn't necessarily mean weak, but being more gentle. So if you're listening to this and it's still May, I really encourage you to jump into Muse May. I did talk a lot about sabotage yesterday, and there's a voice note there. and there's breath sessions, masterclass. Like there's just so much for you to dive into and get a lot of these little sound bites of teachings. It's amazing. Exciting news. I will continue with Telegram moving forward. It's going to be most likely just 1 week a month where I'm going to open a Telegram channel where I will talk a whole week about a certain subject. And the Telegram experiences have just been so fun because I upload audios where you can listen to in your own time, like when you're walking, when you're doing housework, when you're gardening, when you're working out. And I just feel like it's such an incredible way to get in the moment inspiration. So I tune in whenever I feel ready during the day to give some sort of teaching about the topic. And I'm loving it so much. So Muse May is only $88 and you get the whole month. So even if you join the end of May, you can just enjoy all the audios, the breath sessions, the masterclass. Like it has just been such a fun experience. And I really recommend, if things were resonating for you during this call, Muse May is going to be the perfect place to continue these conversations. Really, it's definitely the sanctuary for what we've been talking about. And what else is going on? So I have opened a one-on-one experience as well for 3, 6, or 9 months where we can go deep into your own relationship to ease, your own relationship to smoothing out your stones. And I combined, personal mentorship through chat and also personal guided breathwork sessions for you. So if that's something you're interested in, to work one-on-one, to have somebody a bit closer to you to go through what you're experiencing and to have that high level support, I would love to be that person if it's a good fit for both of us. And the retreat is coming up. You guys, even if you're not interested in coming, let's just celebrate that that's happening, because it feels like such a big part of the process for everything that I've been going through. To finally enter the retreat world is very, very exciting for me. So I think that's all for now. And I guess I'll also say, if you want to give a Spotify 5-star review or an honest review, that always is helpful. Yeah, I'd love to hear more about Lofoten. Yes, it is going to be out next week. Next Thursday, I'm pretty sure we are going to have everything together. So the dates are, I think it's the 8th to the 10th, that weekend in September. And it's going to be all about the Riverstone. You guys, this is going to be like the new thing, I promise. The 6th to the 8th. 6th to the 8th. So you can just maybe hold that off in your calendar, and more information is going to come soon. It's going to be a small group, and we're going to do breath work and really support this theme of ease in our lives. Personal healing, and then also creative support for all of you that are putting work out into the world and leading your visions. So I'm sending so much love. Stay connected wherever you find me, and you can always reach out to me if there's any questions, if there's something hit you in a certain way. Feel free to share. I would love to hear, reflect. And again, just thank you so much for showing up, and those who showed up live, thank you so much. And I'll see you next month. It's every single month, every third Tuesday at 12 p.m. You can join live, and it's uploaded onto Spotify afterwards. So thank you again. I'll see you next month. Bye, everyone.